I think it goes without saying, but Marvel Studios has kind of been riding the struggle bus ever since they released Endgame. Don't get me wrong, we've had some great Marvel movies and TV shows since 2019, No Way Home, Guardians 3, Wakanda Forever, Loki, but there are also a handful of films that either flopped, received negative reviews, or even both. But that brings me to the latest Marvel release and the film I will be reviewing for you today. The Marvels follows Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, and Kamala Khan, who are brought together when their powers become entangled, causing them to switch places whenever they're used, which they then have to learn to use to their advantage in order to take down a villain with the power to destroy entire universes. As far as the cast goes, I obviously have to start with the Marvels themselves. As Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, we have Brie Larson. As Monica Rambeau, we have Teyonah Parris. And as Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, we have Iman Vellani. Then, returning as Nick Fury, we once again have Samuel L. Jackson. As the film's villain, Dar-Benn, we have Zawe Ashton, which, fun fact, she is actually the wife of Tom Hiddleston, aka Loki. But getting into my review, I will be structuring it like usual, starting with the positives, then the negatives, then I'll end the review with my ranking. So without further ado, let's get into my review for 2023's The Marvels. Getting into the positives, I will start by saying this film isn't quite as bad as I was expecting, and the first positive is definitely going to be the performances from the cast. I think everyone in here did the best with what they were given. Brie Larson felt like she was giving a slightly different performance as Carol Danvers than she gave in the past, being less of a stoic hero and a bit more of an emotionally layered character. Teyonah Parris also gave some great emotion through her performance as Monica Rambeau. She kind of gets the short end of the stick as far as story and character development goes, but still tries her absolute best to stand out, and it mostly works. But then there's Iman frickin' Vellani as Kamala frickin' Khan. And I'll be real with you right now, I might be incredibly biased with this character and the actor who portrays her, but I quite honestly thought she carried this movie. She has the charisma, the humor, the emotion, and even the fighting down, and there quite honestly isn't a single negative I could think of when it comes to her character or performance. But I should probably mention the chemistry between the three main characters, and I will say there is quite a bit to be found. You can tell that they actually care about each other and like spending time with one another, the kind of stuff that makes me excited to see the blooper reel when the film gets released at home. Even if the rest of the film was complete crap, you could at least tell that they were having fun doing what they were doing. But on to the next positive, which is going to be the cinematography and fight choreography. The two kind of go hand in hand. The cinematography looked the best in the fight scenes, and I thought those fight scenes were very well choreographed. There's a lot of energy in those scenes with the choreography from the actors and the positioning of the camera, and the way the characters swap places during a fight add a lot of energy to the scenes as well. Overall, I was pretty pleasantly surprised with the action and the overall look of the film. But on to the last positive, which is going to be some of the writing. I think the writing works the best when it comes to the more emotional aspects of the film, aspects having to do with the relationship between Carol and Monica, or Kamala and her family. But I'd also say there's some bits of comedy in the film that worked for me a bit more than they maybe should have. On top of that, I thought the dialogue was pretty good throughout, mainly when it came to the three main characters, but if I'm being honest, that's kind of where the positives stop. So getting into the negatives, where do I even start? I will say this, I don't hate the movie, I don't think it's the worst Marvel movie ever made, but it is definitely far from the best. It is very flawed for a few unfortunate reasons. And the first negative, is going to be the pacing. The Marvels is an hour and 45 minutes with credits, making it the shortest MCU film to date, and this film rushes through every single second of it. The more emotional aspects of the film that I enjoyed, that I mentioned before, yeah, they don't get much room to breathe at all. Meanwhile, you know what got plenty of focus throughout? That's right, it's the comedy. The more emotional scenes will get a minute at best, but then the comedy gets dragged out to 3 to 5 minutes. And while I didn't mind the comedy, actually kind of enjoyed it, it's the same issue a lot of other Marvel films have been having. Not being able to take themselves seriously, not being able to hold on emotional moments long enough. Kind of similar to the way it was in Thor: Love and Thunder. And I will say, as far as the comedy goes, this film kind of matches that. Maybe a little less funny, but I don't know if that's intentional or not. But enough rambling and getting into the next negative, which is going to be the writing specifically for the villain. Through no fault of the actor whatsoever, Dar-Benn is one of, if not the most forgettable MCU villain to date. And again, no shade towards the actor portraying her whatsoever, she tried her best. But the writers, on the other hand, I'm not trying to be mean, but what were you thinking? If you thought Ronan from the first Guardians of the Galaxy film couldn't become a female and any less interesting, you'd be wrong, because that's exactly what we have right here. There was some potential to be had with her character, but at the end of the day, I can't help but thinking this film would be better off with another villain. On to the last negative, and it actually doesn't have to do with the film itself, but rather the trailers. Now, I didn't mind the first couple of trailers. They actually looked pretty good and had me cautiously optimistic. But the more it seemed like this film was going to flop and get negative reviews, the more desperate Marvel Studios got. They got so desperate, in fact, where they started to show the ending of the movie and also the mid-credit scene in the trailers. So I'll go ahead and warn you now, if you have not seen the film and don't want any spoilers, be careful watching any trailers, TV spots, clips, really anything on the internet until you watch the film. It's crazy that Marvel Studios themselves are literally spoiling the movie in their trailer, but hey, I guess desperate times call for desperate measures. And I will say, I do understand their desperation based on the film's performance and also the recent negative attention they've received. But for the most part, I don't think anything about the marketing for this film or the film itself will help change any of that anytime soon. But that's all for the positives and negatives, so let's get into my ranking. And since this film is only available in theaters, I'll be ranking it under my theatrical film ranking system. So as far as my ranking of 2023's The Marvels goes, I'm going to give the film a discounted ticket. Like I said before, this is not the worst Marvel movie, but it is definitely far from the best. I'd say one of the few reasons to actually check it out is the performance from Iman Vellani. I definitely think she carried this movie, she was fantastic. But another reason to check it out is to obviously see what they're teasing for the future. Now, as far as any after-credit scenes go, there's a scene at the very end of the film that feels like it should have been a mid-credit scene, but for whatever reason, they just put it at the end of the film. That tease at the end was pretty cool and had me very excited and very giddy. But the second one, the mid-credit scene, is the one that everybody is going to be talking about. Like I said before, just be careful on the internet until you watch this film if you're worried about spoilers. But holy crap, dude, you need to see this mid-credit scene. But those are just my thoughts on the Marvels, and I'd love to see yours down in the comments below. Have you seen the film? What did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you in the middle? And if you have seen it, please leave spoilers out of the comments for those who haven't seen it yet. And have you not seen it yet? Are you planning on watching it in the theater, at home, or not at all? Really, any comments you have for me, I would love to hear from you. I respond to as much as I can. But do me a favor and leave an embiggen thumbs up on this video, fly directly through the subscribe button, and absorb the energy of the notification bell to save the entire universe.
You think you're the only superhero in the world? Become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.